Hey everybody, welcome back to the NC State Insider Podcast. I'm your host and lead beat writer Tucker Sennett, here joined again by my good friend Daniel Rios, my assistant beat writer, talking some more Wolfpack football today. But before we get started, Dan, how are you doing this afternoon?
We are excited. Wolfpack football will be back in a couple of days. Just gotta wait till it, but we got NFL football on tomorrow, so
Yep,
we're
yep.
slowly making it. Slowly
Slowly
making it.
making it. Actually, today when this episode comes out.
Oh, today.
So
So
you can get in the football mood with this podcast episode before
it's
you
true.
watch Cowboys Eagles. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I love that.
Yep. Um, Football, man. Football. It's good to be back.
Football. What a time.
Today we're gonna do start our preview series on the Virginia Cavaliers, NC State's week two opponent, an interesting opponent in the ACC. They haven't seen a ton of each other over the last few years. Last time they played was 2023, and I believe that's the only time Dave Doran has faced Virginia head coach Tony Elliott. Obviously, Elliott goes way back at Clemson, so there's some history there, but he's only been with the Cavaliers for a short period of time. I always say Cavaliers, and I know people actually just call them the Who's. So feel free to laugh at me if I start going back and forth. Um,
Mhm.
Dan, are you familiar with the Who's, Dan?
You just dropped some knowledge on me,
Wow,
so
Dan didn't know about the Who's.
I didn't know about sure,
All right, Dan's learning. Dan's learning college ball.
hey, West Coast kid, just not really too in
No,
depth with
you
it.
you you were up at ungodly hours of the night watching Pac-12 football back in the day. It's okay.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
okay. You weren't watching Virginia ball.
Oh,
Um,
I wasn't. I will not lie.
Not that there
Uh,
historically has been a ton to watch. Anyway, we figured we'll start by previewing Virginia's defense before we really break in, or before we talk about the more exciting side of the ball for them, which is their offense. Um, Really strong start to the season. Obviously played a pretty inferior opponent talent-wise in Coastal Carolina, led by former Wolfpack quarterback MJ Morris, who did not play very well. And there were certainly some things. There's a lot of connections between NC State and Coastal. There's some coaching connections. There's also a lot of connections between Virginia and NC State. There's players that know each other. Brian Nelson. It's the second talk today about playing with Chandler Morris last year at North Texas. So there's a lot of crossover. But as for the defensive side of the ball, that's not Tony Elliott was an offense guy. This is kind of a new unit for them, some new faces as they continue to build this program up. And I figured we'd talk about some of the key players before we get into that. So I have four circled, and Dan, if you have anything to add about any of these guys or other
yeah.
players, feel free to chime in. But I think for me, and based off of what NC State tight end Justin Jolie said today, it starts at safety for this Virginia defense, and the key guy there is number 30, Ethan Minter. He had a strong debut, picked off a pass, had four tackles. He's certainly showcased some strength, a good tackler. He's 6 feet, 201 pounds, so he's a big boy for a safety back there. Um, really looked good in the highlight tape that I saw from the Coastal game, and obviously, if Jolie's bringing him up to the media ahead of time and saying he's a guy that they got to watch out for, my guess is he's pretty important to this Virginia defense. I don't know if you picked up on any of that, Dan.
Yeah, he's pretty important. I think he only got targeted three times, only allowed, 3 yards. So he's definitely elite back there. And he's a really rangy safety. I think a lot of this defense is you're gonna see that those safeties rotating, from in the box to outside of the box. You're gonna see a
Yeah,
lot of inverted coverages, which I saw on some of the highlight tape. I did not get the all 22, so just disclaimer, maybe something I say is wrong. I'm so sorry,
it's
but.
okay. It's okay. We
Couldn't
do what
get
we can.
Virginia, couldn't get Virginia, Coastal Carolina. I'm so What am I gonna do?
We do what we can, Dan. We do what we can.
Yeah, but I saw a lot of, just inverted coverages, so maybe a little bit of disguises maybe on the way for CJ Bailey in the offense.
Okay. As for the line play, they have a pretty solid player on their defensive line in Fisher Carmack, or sorry, Kmack. Yeah, no R, sorry. Um, Number 14, he is massive. He is 6'7", but he's only 248 pounds, so he's light. But that's a big guy.
That's big. Yeah.
That is a big guy.
Yeah.
He had 5 tackles and half a sack in the game, and he was another guy that Joe Lee brought up as potentially problematic coming off the edge. And that's a guy that Joe Lee might have to block a few times, and that could be something that Kurt Roper and this NC State offense have to be a little bit creative about because they do not have really anybody that's big enough to get in front of that. I don't know how fast K-Mac is off the edge, but it's certainly a unique challenge given his size. And I think that's kind of a theme with this defense. They have another defensive back who's pretty big in Christian Charles. He's 6'1", 200, got really long arms, and Teddy Hoffman brought up that they have a pretty long secondary, and NC State doesn't have any real I get they don't have a traditional X receiver in the sense that a lot of
Yeah.
teams do, a guy that's going to go up and get a jump ball. Hoffman's probably what, like six feet, maybe 5'11". Noah Rogers 6'1", 6'2". They're lacking sort of that big target guy, and I think that's where Joe Lee comes up big. We just haven't seen that yet, but size seems to be the theme for this defense. Not necessarily heavy, but they have some big boys, and
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how NC State deals with that. Dan, what have you kind of seen? Are there any other players that stuck out in the stat sheet or on the highlight tape?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit it right on the head there. This team is very big on all their aspects of their team. Their defensive back room, all at least 6 foot 200. Their defensive line room, outside of K-Mac, no one really kind of impressed me too much. They are bigger than East Carolina is, so it's going to be interesting to see how that offense kind of, well, the NC State offense kind of matches up. But they didn't really have too much production against a Coastal Carolina team, which you kind of would have expected them to. They only totaled 8 pressures for the game. NC State had 18 against East Carolina. So you can kind of, understand it there. But, advanced statistics wise, like their pass defense, they allowed, you know, 0.21 negative or negative 0.21 EPA per play against the pass, which ranked 49th in the country. So against a team like Coastal Carolina where they struggled to even, get yardage. You kind of want to see that a little bit better, but their run defense was it was good with those big bodies. So I'm really just interested to see how Kurt Roper attacks this front. They play some lighter boxes. They play a 4-2-5 type of defense. So got your four down linemen, two linebackers, and five defensive backs out there. So I think there's going to be a lot of creativeness with that, that gap scheme that Roper kind of introduced last week. And I think there's going to be a lot of matchups that will be favorable for NC State, particularly in the slot. I think they'll be able to run
Yeah,
success.
I think the Virginia did not play um, a team that had any sort of serious weapons. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how they react to facing a team that clearly has some talent on that side. And I think if NC State's offensive line can hold up against some of these tall defensive linemen, not necessarily big guys. I mean, they only had I don't know if you said this already, but they had one sack for 7 yards in the entire game and they won 48-7. That doesn't seem really
Yeah.
super impressive.
And honestly, like I generally think the defensive pass rushers on East Carolina are probably better than what Virginia has right now. I think Raheem Craig and JD Lampley were two guys who had a lot of success last year. And coming into this year, I honestly think they probably had more upside than anyone on Virginia. Obviously, it's still early. We're week two, but yeah, we're gonna have to see how it plays out. But in terms of week one, you would hope you get more production against a group of five school, and you just weren't able to. So we're gonna have to see how they fare against a rare non-conference matchup with the Wolfpack.
Rare non-conference is right. It's a bizarre situation.
Yep.
I think really it's going to come down to CJ Bailey handling a lot of the pressure. And if they can't generate a ton of pressure, he could be dicing this defense up with great success. It's if they can run the ball even a little bit, it could be a long day for this Virginia defense and a very good day for the Wolfpack offense. So we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see how that all shakes out. Anything else to add about this Virginia defense before we wrap things up here, Dan?
No, I just lastly, I think that this running game should see a little bit more success. They didn't seem to blitz as much as East Carolina did last week, so
Mhm.
I think Roper kind of talked about that, how, they East Carolina threw a lot of different fronts and blitzes at the Wolfpack. I think this week it's going to be a little bit more tame. So I'm interested to see how they kind of fare against the defense that's going to sit back more and some too high shells and things like that, who won't let them get beat down the field. So be interesting to see how we all adjust.
Well, there you have it. That is our preview of the Virginia defense ahead of their week two matchup against NC State. Obviously, couldn't cover everything, but we did our best, and we hope that you enjoyed hearing kind of the players to look out for on this defense and what to expect in terms of NC State attacking it moving forward this weekend. As always, thank you for joining us on the NC State Insider Podcast. Feel free to follow Daniel's Twitter account at Daniel_Rio72 for more of his film breakdowns and NC State content, as well as some other stuff that he does covering the NFL on his own time. Really, really great content there. Follow my X account at Senate Tucker, as well as the website's X account at Wolfpack on SI for all of our coverage posted there throughout the day. And then feel free to watch more of these episodes on the sports videos on SI YouTube channel. We got press conference coverage of other schools, some good stuff coming from Chapel Hill after that beatdown, and some of the other schools in the area. So get all your Carolina sports fix right there. And as always, thank you very much for joining us. Have a great day.